Listen to me now. There comes a time in your life when the most powerful thing you can do is pull back. Not because you're playing games, not because you're being petty, but because you're finally starting to value yourself. Let me tell you something. When you're always available, always answering, always saying yes, people start to take you for granted. They stop appreciating your presence because they never had to deal with your absence. But when you step away, when you stop showing up for people who wouldn't cross the street for you, that's when they realize what they had. You got to learn to let them miss you. Now I know what some of y'all thinking. If I don't text back, if I don't call, they'll think I don't care. No. See, that's where you got it twisted. People who really care about you, they won't forget you just because you're not chasing them. They'll come find you. The ones who disappear when you stop doing all the work, those are the ones who were only sticking around because it was easy. Let me give it to you straight. Your energy is expensive. Your time is valuable. Your peace is priceless. Stop giving it out like it's free samples at the mall. If they want your attention, let them earn it. If they want your presence, let them deserve it. Sometimes silence is louder than words. Sometimes the best message you can send is no message at all. Not out of anger, but out of self-respect. See, when you always show up, people think you always will. But when you disappear for a while, when you take your light away, suddenly the room gets darker. And they start realizing how bright you really were. You've been giving so much of yourself, trying to prove your worth to people who should have recognized it from the start. You've been bending over backward for folks who wouldn't even lean forward for you. It's time to stop chasing and start choosing. Choose yourself. That doesn't make you selfish. It makes you smart. It means you're done begging for love, attention, validation. It means you're stepping into your power and saying, if you can't value me when I'm here, then you'll have to miss me when I'm gone. And let me tell you, missing you is part of the lesson. When you back away, when you stop replying, when you don't show up, every time they expect you to, that's when they'll start seeing everything they took for granted. That's when they'll start replaying the moments you were there, realizing how much lighter life felt with you in it. Letting them miss you is not about ego. It's about elevation. You're not disappearing to hurt them. You're stepping back to heal yourself. You're not ghosting. You're growing. So I'm telling you right now, take your time back. Take your space back. Let them wonder where you went. Let them feel the silence. Let them sit with the absence. Because if your presence didn't teach them anything, maybe your absence will. Let them miss you. You're worth that. When you're constantly available to others, always answering calls, always replying instantly, always saying yes, people begin to expect it. What once felt like a blessing becomes a routine, and routines over time often lose their value. That's the hard truth many of us have to learn. When you make yourself too accessible, too willing, too present, people can begin to see you as ordinary, not because you are, but because they've forgotten what life feels like without you. And once they forget, they start treating you like you're replaceable. But you're not. The problem isn't your value. It's that you've given too much of it without boundaries. Human nature is such that we often don't truly appreciate something until it's gone, or at least until it's not immediately available. This isn't about playing games. It's about protecting your self-worth. If you're always there, always giving, always showing up without being asked, people start to think it's just what you do. They stop saying thank you. They stop recognizing the effort. They start to assume that no matter what they do or don't do, you'll still be right there. That kind of predictability can lead to entitlement on their end and on yours. You begin to feel used. You start noticing that you're showing up for people who wouldn't even show up halfway for you. And when that moment hits, it's painful because you thought your consistency would earn appreciation. You thought your availability would lead to connection. But instead, it led to expectation. And expectations without gratitude can become a form of silent disrespect. It becomes a cycle where your kindness is mistaken for weakness, your availability mistaken for desperation, and your loyalty mistaken for lack of options. The truth is, you teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. If you make yourself too easy to access, you give others the impression that your time isn't worth much, that your presence is a given, but it's not. You are not a guarantee. You are not an unlimited resource. You are a human being with needs, limits, and emotions. You deserve to be appreciated, not just expected. Pulling back doesn't mean you're being cold. It doesn't mean you're being petty. It means you've realized that your energy is precious and that not everyone deserves front row access to your life. The people who truly value you will notice the shift. They'll feel the difference. They'll miss the warmth you brought into their lives and start to understand that what you gave wasn't just time. It was effort, love, intention. Think about how many times you've overextended yourself for people who wouldn't do the same for you. Think about the emotional toll that takes. When you're always giving, but not receiving, it creates an imbalance that slowly chips away at your confidence and sense of self-worth. The remedy isn't to become bitter or shut down emotionally. It's to become intentional. It's to recognize who truly sees your value and, over time, your energy and your peace are some of the most valuable assets you possess, yet too often, people treat them as if they're limitless and free. The reason this happens isn't always because others are malicious or ungrateful. It's often because you haven't placed a clear value on them yourself. When you give away your time too freely, when you pour your energy into everyone without discrimination, and when you sacrifice your peace to keep other people comfortable, you send a silent message. My boundaries don't matter. And the moment you make your boundaries invisible, others begin to cross them without even noticing. It doesn't take long before you find yourself drained, resentful, and wondering why no one seems to give back what you give. You have to protect your energy like it's your home. Imagine someone walking into your house uninvited, throwing things around, making demands, and leaving a mess. You never allow that. So why let people do that to your emotional and mental space? Not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone should be able to call you at any time, drain you with their negativity, and then disappear when you need support. You have to filter who gets your attention. You have to decide who truly honors your presence and who's just taking advantage of it. One of the most powerful things you can do for yourself is to become selective. This isn't about arrogance. It's about survival. Emotional survival. Mental survival. Your energy is like a bank account. If you keep making withdrawals for people who never deposit anything back, you will go broke. Spiritually, emotionally, mentally. And when you're empty, you can't help anyone. You can't love from a place of exhaustion. You can't inspire from a place of depletion. You have to fill your own cup first, then share from your overflow. Anything else leads to burnout and bitterness. Peace is not something you stumble upon. It's something you create. And once you find it, you must protect it fiercely. That means saying no without guilt. That means cutting off conversations that leave you anxious. That means distancing yourself from people who only come around when they need something. It means being okay with being misunderstood if it means preserving your sanity. Your peace is not up for negotiation. It is not a luxury. It is a necessity. When you begin to set those boundaries, some people will get offended. They're not upset because you're doing something wrong. They're upset because your growth is exposing their dependency. You're disrupting the convenience they've gotten used to. But let them feel what they need to feel. You're not responsible for their comfort. You're responsible for your well-being. And if someone truly values you, they will adjust. They will learn how to meet you with the same respect and effort that you give so easily. Respect isn't just about how others talk to you. It's also about how they treat your time, your presence, and your effort. If someone constantly shows you that they only want what you can give, not who you are, Believe them. You don't owe anyone unlimited access to you. Not friends, not family, not partners. You owe yourself a peaceful life, and that often means drawing lines and not feeling guilty for it. It might feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to being the giver, the fixer, the one who's always available. But you have to ask yourself, at what cost? If the cost is your peace, if the cost is your energy, if the cost is your self-worth, then it's too expensive. You have every right to protect your space, even if it disappoints people who benefited from your lack of boundaries. You deserve relationships where you're not just seen as useful, but as valuable. You deserve conversations that leave you feeling uplifted, not depleted. You deserve to wake up and not feel anxiety about who might be pulling on your energy today. And the only way to get that is to take responsibility for your boundaries and understand the worth of what you offer. Your time, your energy, and your peace are your responsibility to protect. Don't waste them trying to prove your worth to people who only notice you when they need something. Start noticing who respects your space and who only respects their access to it. That's how you'll know who's really for you. And when you make that shift, you'll begin to see just how powerful your presence truly is. Because when it's no longer free to everyone, it starts to mean something again. Who's just benefiting from your generosity? The moment you start creating space is the moment you start gaining clarity. You begin to see who checks and when you go quiet. You notice who reaches out when you stop reaching first. You observe who values you when you're no longer constantly available. That's when the real becomes clear. That's when loyalty reveals itself. Not in your presence, but in your absence. Your time is one of the most expensive things you own. How you spend it and who you spend it on matters. If you're giving it away freely to people who don't appreciate it, you're doing a disservice to yourself. You deserve reciprocity. You deserve respect. And sometimes the only way to get it is to step back and let people realize what life feels like without you. Because that realization, that silence, that missing, it can be a louder wake, up call than anything you could ever say. You are not meant to be available to everyone at all times. You're meant to be valued, respected, and appreciated. And sometimes to get that, you have to take a step back and let your absence speak for itself. Let them miss you. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about honoring your worth. Ask ChatGPT. Silence and distance have a language all their own, and they often communicate truths that words can't touch. When you remove yourself from situations or people that no longer serve your well-being, you create a void, and in that space, clarity begins to rise. People don't always realize what you bring to the table while you're sitting there every day. They get used to your kindness, They get used to your effort. They get used to you carrying the emotional weight, initiating the conversations, holding things together. But when you stop doing all that, when you pull back and let the silence settle, it forces them to take a long, hard look at what they've been overlooking. Silence is not about manipulation. It's not about playing games or trying to make people chase you. It's about removing the noise so you can hear what's real. When you stop filling every gap, when you stop over-explaining, when you stop justifying your value through constant presence, it allows the other person to reflect. And sometimes that reflection stings because the absence reveals the imbalance. It makes people notice the effort that once seemed invisible. It highlights the emotional labor you were doing just to maintain the connection. And often, that's when they finally begin to understand how much of yourself you were giving. Distance is just as powerful. Not just physical space, but emotional space. When you stop offering immediate replies, when you no longer jump at every call, when you no longer show up out of habit, it makes people feel your presence in a new way, through your absence. It's in that distance that they realize the peace you brought, the way your words comforted, the energy you gave without asking for much in return. And they start to miss it because now it's not there on demand. It's not easy anymore. They have to sit with the fact that what they once had consistent access to is no longer guaranteed. This isn't about punishing anyone. It's about protecting yourself. It's about recognizing that your presence is a gift, not a given. You have the right to pull back from people who take you for granted. You have the right to protect your spirit from being drained. You're not obligated to be emotionally available to those who never return the favor. And sometimes, stepping away is the only way to find out who really values you. The ones who care will notice the silence. They'll feel the distance and choose to bridge it. The ones who don't, they were never really there for you, just for what you provided. And while they're figuring that out, you'll be finding yourself again. You'll be restoring your energy, refocusing on your goals, rebuilding your confidence. Because sometimes you don't realize how tired you are until you stop giving. You don't realize how much of yourself you've poured into other people until you finally pause and let the silence take over. That silence becomes sacred. That distance becomes healing. It gives you space to reflect on who you are outside of other people's needs. It lets you breathe without the weight of expectation pressing down on your chest. Letting silence and distance speak. For you also keeps you from saying things you'll regret. Instead of shouting for attention or demanding respect, you let your absence communicate what your presence was worth. You let people draw their own conclusions, and that's often more powerful than anything you could have said. Because when someone realizes on their own that they've lost access to something meaningful, it hits differently. It's not forced, it's felt. And that's where change starts. So the next time you feel overlooked, unheard, or undervalued, don't rush to prove your worth. Don't chase. Don't beg. Just step back. Embrace the silence. Allow the distance to do its work. If they care, they'll come looking. If they don't, you've just created the space needed to attract something better, something healthier, something real. Let your silence be your strength. Let your distance be your decision. Because the people who are meant for you won't need to be reminded of your value. They'll already know it. And they'll treat you accordingly. Letting others miss you is not about feeding your ego or playing games. It's about reclaiming yourself, respect, and honoring your worth. For far too long, people have been conditioned to believe that pulling back means you're being rude, distant, or uncaring. But in reality, there's great power in knowing when to step back, when to choose yourself, and when to let your absence do the talking. This choice doesn't stem from arrogance. It stems from clarity. Clarity about who you are, what you deserve, and what you're no longer willing to tolerate. Too often, we stretch ourselves thin trying to maintain connections that no longer feed us. We show up, we prove, and we hope. We become addicted to being available, thinking that love, attention, and respect must be earned through sacrifice. But all that sacrifice without balance turns into emotional exhaustion. You can't keep pouring into people who only know how to take. At some point, you have to take a step back and say, if you really see me, if you truly value me, you'll feel my absence. Letting them miss you doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care enough about yourself to stop overextending. You recognize that your presence has value and that being accessible all the time to everyone makes people forget your worth. Pulling back allows the right people to step up. It reveals who truly respects you and who is only there for convenience, because anyone who needs constant access to you to feel connected isn't really connected to you. They're connected to the benefit of having you around. Creating space isn't always comfortable, but it's necessary. Sometimes people need the silence to hear their own thoughts. Sometimes they need the distance to realize how much comfort you brought. It's in that quiet that appreciation begins to grow. They remember the little things, the encouragement, the consistency, the love that was never forced. And those realizations don't come when you're always present. They come when you're gone, even for a little while. But this isn't just about how they feel. This is also about what you learn in that process. When you stop showing up out of habit, you begin to see who notices. You begin to feel the difference between being needed and being valued. You realize that true respect is not about how often someone talks to you, but about how they treat you in your absence. Do they reach out? Do they acknowledge your silence? Do they check on you without expecting anything in return? If not, then you were never truly seen. You were just available. There's also a lesson here in discipline. It takes strength not to reach out when you're used to doing so. It takes courage to let someone sit in the space you used to fill and not rush back in to make them comfortable. That silence, that waiting, that distance, it teaches you patience. It shows you the difference between attachment and connection. One clings out of fear. The other waits in confidence. Letting people miss you is how you remind them and yourself of your value. It's how you reset the balance in relationships that have become too one-sided. It's how you protect your energy and ensure you're not giving more than you're receiving. When you do this from a place of love and not bitterness, it becomes one of the most powerful things you can do for your personal growth. It allows others the space to rise to the level of effort you deserve, or to step a step aside and make room for someone who will. You're not meant to be a permanent fixture in someone's life just because they're used to having you around. You're meant to be cherished, respected, and pursued, not for what you do, but for who you are. So if you feel overlooked, unappreciated, or emotionally depleted, don't explain. Don't argue. Don't beg. Just retreat. Hold your peace. Stand in your worth and let them miss you. Because if your presence didn't teach them your value, maybe your absence will.